Russia claims to attack every few hours until Ukraine surrenders. During a press conference at the Kyiv Press Center on Tuesday morning, May 30th, the spokesman of the Ukrainian Air Force, Colonel Yuri Ihnat, said that Russia has launched another major attack on the Ukrainian capital Kyiv in the past few days. The first hours of Tuesday, May 30th. It was the invaders' third airstrike on the capital Kyiv in the past 24 hours and the 17th in May. In a television program on the evening of Monday, May 29th, TV propagandist on Russia 1 TV Vladimir Solovyov threatened that Russia was launching a campaign to attack Kyiv every few hours until Ukraine suffered unconditional surrender. According to Colonel Yuri Ihnat, since the night of May 29th, Ukrainian air defense units destroyed 36 out of 40 Russian Kh-101 and Kh-555 cruise missiles and 30 out of 38 suicide drones. Shahed 136 and 131. From last night until this morning, the enemy used Kh-101 and Kh-555 air-launched cruise missiles and Iranian-made Shahed 136 and Shahed 131 combat drones. According to updated information, the forces and units of the Air Force Command, in collaboration with other air defense units of the Ukrainian Self-Defense Forces, destroyed 36 out of 40 Kh-101 and Kh-class cruise missiles. 555 and 30 of the 38 Shahed 136 and 131 drones. On the afternoon of May 29, 2023, Russian invaders fired Iskander cruise and ballistic missiles at Kyiv-based civilian and critical infrastructure. The Ukrainian Air Force shot down all 11 enemy missiles. According to CNN, there are 3 reasons leading to the current air campaign of the Russian invaders. Reason 1, here's a low-cost attack. First, Iran-made Shahed drones are a cheap way to at least inflict some damage on Kyiv, which has avoided the impact action of the Russian invasion for most of last year. Russia has purchased hundreds of such drones at a cost about 20 times less than rockets. The second reason, this suffering is psychological as well as physical. Nighttime attacks send thousands of people to shelters and basements. Windows were broken, rubble fell on the street. Since the start of the invasion, air raid sirens have sounded in Kyiv for a total of 887 hours. The closest history to that is when the Nazis used V-2 cruise missiles against London at the end of World War II. The overnight attacks came as the Ukrainian capital was preparing to celebrate Kyiv Day, which marked the city's founding more than 1,500 years ago. That's probably not a coincidence. All indications, however, were that, despite the disorder and exhaustion, the attitudes of the city's residents remained hardened rather than weakened in the face of such attacks. Reason number 3, breaking defenses. The Russians' larger intent in sending waves of Shahed planes would potentially weaken Ukraine's air defenses and force them to use anhydrous munitions. Rare for drone swarms. Numerous accounts over the past few months, including estimates in leaked U.S. military assessments, have mentioned serious shortcomings in Ukraine's multilayered air defense system. 2. Ukraine repelled 20 Russian attacks in the east. The Russian army switched to a defensive posture before the expected general counteroffensive of Ukraine. During a press conference at the Kyiv Press Center on Tuesday morning, May 30th, Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar said that on the eastern battlefield, Ukrainian defense forces repelled 20 Russian attacks, most of them around the completely ruined town of Marinka, near the city of Donetsk. At Lyman, Russia did not launch ground attacks on the eastern town but continued airstrikes and shelling. In Bakhmut, Russian forces do not attack but shelling continues. According to Deputy Minister Hanna Maliar, Russian regular troops are replacing Wagner troops both on the outskirts and inside the city of Bakhmut. In the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions, she reports that Russia has launched extensive shelling of settlements near the front lines in these areas, where many observers expect Ukraine to focus its counterattack. Some analysts believe that Russian forces are limiting their offensive action as they try to fortify defenses in Bakhmut and elsewhere along the front lines. 3. Russia attacked Kyiv with a daylight attack on Monday after a series of overnight attacks. Update the latest information. Russia launched a series of attacks on Kyiv from Sunday night to Monday, including a surprise attack during the day. More than 70 drones and missiles have been fired by Moscow since Sunday night, Ukrainian officials said, and many drones have been shot down by Ukrainian defense forces. The Kyiv military junta said the daylight attack was the 16th attack on the capital since the beginning of the month. Ukrainian authorities are promising swift retaliation as the country's counterattacks become increasingly visible. Ukraine's air defense forces destroyed 67 of the 75 air targets launched into Kyiv overnight, the commander of the Ukrainian armed forces said on Monday. General Valery Zaluzhnyi said 37 cruise missiles, 29 Shahid drones and 1 reconnaissance drone were shot down. Police confirmed that most of the enemy targets were destroyed, but some buildings were damaged. Just hours later, Kyiv suffered an unusual daytime attack. Senior Lieutenant General Serhiy Popko, governor of the Kyiv Special Region, said the attack showed that the enemy has changed tactics. After protracted attacks, only at night, it attacked a city peaceful during the day when most residents are at work and outside. Kyiv's armed forces said they shot down 11 Russian-launched Iskander missiles during the daytime raid. One man was hospitalized. The spokesman for the Ukrainian Air Force, Colonel Yuri Ihnat, said the following about attacks across other regions of Ukraine. The country's defense forces destroyed 77 of the 89 Russian drones and rockets fired at various places in the country on Sunday and Monday night. The total number of rockets launched by Russia is said to be the highest in recent months. Ukraine vows to respond. The head of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Service promises sanctions very soon after the latest wave of Russian attacks. Our response will not be delayed. People will see everything soon, the official said. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky posted a half-minute video of children running to shelters in Kyiv on Monday morning when they heard an explosion in the background. Thank you to everyone around the world who helped protect our people and children from Russian terrorism, the president said. The Russian Defense Ministry announced that its forces had attacked Ukrainian airports, destroying all targets. The Defense Ministry said the strike hit command posts and radar stations, as well as aviation equipment, weapons and ammunition depots. Regarding the Battle of Bakhmut, Colonel Serhiy Cherevadyi, spokesman for the Eastern Ukraine Military Command, pointed out that there was little change in positions around the eastern city of Bakhmut. The intensity of Moscow's attack was reduced as regular Russian units continued to replace the Wagner warriors. The head of the Wagner Group said on Sunday that the handover of Wagner positions in Bakhmut to Russian military units could last until June 5. Fourth, Ukraine says it intercepted 77 of 89 Russian drones and missiles in the past day. During a press conference at the Kyiv Press Center on Tuesday morning, May 30, spokesman for the Ukrainian Air Force, Colonel Yuri Ihnat, said that the air defenses destroyed most of the drones and rockets. Russian rockets fired into the country on Sunday night and Monday. He said in his daily update that there have been 2 waves of attacks. The first involved 40 air-launched cruise missiles and 38 Shahid attack drones, and Ukraine says only 4 missiles and 8 drones penetrated air defenses of Ukraine. Then, at 10 a.m., the enemy used cruise missiles and ballistic missiles from the Iskander tactical missile system against civilian and critical infrastructure in Kyiv. The Ukrainian Air Force destroyed all 11 missiles launched by Russia, confirming Ukraine's previous assessments. The total number of rockets is one of the highest in recent months. 5. Ukrainian officials warn Iran will face consequences after Kyiv was attacked by Iranian drones. A top Ukrainian government official has warned Iran of consequences after the capital Kyiv was hit by an Iranian Shahid drone early Sunday morning. Tehran has become a key ally of Moscow in this war, deliberately supplying the country with weapons to attack civilian cities, said Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to the Chief of Staff to the President of Ukraine. Stated above. Today's attack on Kyiv with 50 Shahids on City Day is another eloquent proof of this fact, he said, referring to an annual holiday commemorating the capital. Legally, Iran is doing this with direct intent and is aware of the consequences of its actions. And there will certainly be consequences. Today, I want to remind Tehran officials about the basic laws of life, especially the law of the boomerang. Don't be confused by the illusion of geographical remoteness or the misunderstanding of the priorities of Ukraine today. Once released, surely one day Shahid will find its way into the hands of its makers. Podolyak said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky would propose to the government sanctions against Iran for 50 years. The head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, stated that the proposed sanctions would include trade, financial and technological restrictions on Iranians, banning shipments and flights of Iranians. Iran passes through Ukrainian territory, and at the same time bans Iranian citizens from withdrawing money from Ukraine. Relations between Tehran and Moscow became much closer during Russia's all-out invasion of Ukraine. Russia wants Iranian drones and ballistic missiles, Iran wants Russian investment and trade. According to Iranian officials, Russia has become the largest foreign investor in Iran over the past year. About attack drones, Shahed drones such as the Shahed 129 and Shahed 191 are unmanned aerial vehicles capable of carrying precision-guided weapons and can also be used to monitor. Iran appears to be modifying its drones so that their explosive warheads can do maximum damage to infrastructure targets inside Ukraine, according to an exclusive investigative report by CNN. 6. Two Russian missile carriers in the Black Sea are ready to fire up to 16 caliber missiles. Two Russian missile carriers entered the Black Sea with a total of 16 caliber-type cruise missiles. Spokesperson for Southern Command Natalia Humanyuk said as above. The enemy continues to expand the presence of missile carriers in the Black Sea. By 8:30, two small rocket ships were ready for combat. There are 16 caliber missiles in total, she said. As a reminder, at dawn on May 29, a Russian surface-to-air missile carrier was on a combat duty in the Black Sea carrying up to 8 caliber cruise missiles on board. 7. Lindsey Graham calls Russian threats against him badge of honor. Newsweek ran a report titled Lindsey Graham calls Russian threats against him badge of honor, which means Lindsey Graham calls Russian threats against him badge of honor. We invite you and your brothers and sisters to follow the translation into Vietnamese through the presentation of Kim Thuy. Senator Lindsey Graham has reacted to Russia's decision to put him on the most wanted list after accusing him of praising the killing of Russians during the Ukraine war. He jokingly called the threats a badge of honor. I will accept the arrest warrant issued by Putin's corrupt and unscrupulous government as a badge of honor, the South Carolina Republican said in a statement Monday. Knowing that my commitment to Ukraine has angered Putin's regime brings me immense joy. I will continue to stand with and for the freedom of Ukraine until all Russian soldiers are expelled from Ukrainian territory. Russia's state news agencies TASS and RIA Novosti previously reported that the Russian Interior Ministry had put him on the most wanted list. Graham, Lindsey Olin, American, born July 9, 1955, wanted under the provisions of the Criminal Code, the Interior Ministry said, without specifying the senator wanted by Russia. What crime? The news comes after Graham met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv on Friday. During their meeting, the senator said U.S. military aid to the country was the best money we've ever spent. The Kremlin criticized his remarks, referring to an edited video in which Graham appeared to have praised the killing of Russians during the ongoing war in Ukraine. The edited video, released by Zelensky's office, shows Graham in a meeting with Zelensky saying, "The Russians are dying," and shortly after commenting on sending military aid. United States for Ukraine. Kim Thuy would also like to open parentheses to add that the meeting between President Zelensky and Senator Graham was very long, consisting of two distinct parts. The first part talks about the current situation, in which Senator Graham commented that the Ukrainian people's will to defend their country has helped them stand up to the Russian invasion, while the Russians are failing and the Russians are failing. Slowly dying. The second part is the intention of Senator Graham when visiting Kyiv. He wanted to prove to President Zelensky that despite some opposition voices from some Republicans such as Anna Paulina Luna or Marjorie Taylor Greene, the overall Republican position was in favor of military aid to Ukraine. Because it was the best money we ever spent. Since the meeting was so lengthy, and not all details could be made public, it is understandable that it was edited for brevity. Today's Russians intentionally misrepresent that Senator Graham said the Russians are slowly dying, so the amount of military aid to Ukraine is the best money we've ever spent. After his remarks were criticized by Russia, Ukraine released a full video of the meeting showing two unrelated quotes. According to Reuters, two of Graham's remarks were made in different parts of his conversation with the Ukrainian president. Finally, here is an offer to my Russian friends who want to arrest and try me for calling the Putin regime a war criminal. I will submit to the court's jurisdiction. International Criminal Court if you do. Go there and best justify your case. See you in The Hague. Graham added. Russia's investigative committee opened a criminal case against Graham on Sunday, calling the senator's comments anti-Russian. Earlier, Kremlin Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov said Graham's remarks were a shame to the United States. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova echoed Graham's remarks, before claiming financial investments by American companies in Nazi Germany led to World War II and the Holocaust. Now, billions of dollars are pouring down the insatiable throat of the Kyiv neo-fascist regime. In this regard, I would like to remind senators and all Americans to remember how the previous adventure ended, she said. Russia's state news agency TASS quoted Zakharova as saying Monday that US and British media are trying to convince Russia that perhaps Senator Graham's statement has been taken out of context, or even edited by the Kiev regime. We have not heard any condemnation of the Kiev regime, she said. Newsweek has reached out to Ukraine's foreign ministry by email for comment. 8. Ukraine says the intensity of Russia's Bakhmut offensive has reduced significantly as Wagner forces were replaced. Ukrainian officials have pointed out that little has changed in positions around the eastern city of Bakhmut, and the intensity of Moscow's offensive has decreased as regular Russian units continue to replace the machines. Wagner fighter. The intensity of the enemy's attack has decreased significantly as they have replaced troops from Wagner with regular units and tried to stabilize the defense in this area, Hanna Maliar, Ukraine's deputy defense minister, said as follows, above. She added, "Our military is making this process very difficult for the enemy. At the same time, the intensity of the enemy's shelling has not decreased. Currently, Ukrainian units are holding positions just south and west of the city. To the south of Bakhmut, the enemy is trying to consolidate and build up army units," Maliar said. The head of the Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, said on Sunday that the handover of the positions of his fighters in Bakhmut to Russian military units could last until June 5. The American Institute for the Study of War, or ISW, said in its latest assessment of the situation that there is ongoing evidence that Russian units are being transferred to Bakhmut from other areas of the Donetsk front line, including Avdiivka. The ISW said on Sunday that regular troops taking up positions in Bakhmut could slow down the progress of Russian offensive operations on the front of the Donetsk city of Avdiivka. The ISW also said that the rate of Russian activity around Bakhmut remains remarkably low. Ukrainian officials say the same, with daily recorded clashes in the region reduced to no more than 10 attacks. 9. Ukraine promises quick retaliation after the latest series of Russian missile attacks. The head of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Service has promised sanctions very soon after the latest wave of Russian missile and drone attacks on Kyiv and other sites. All those people in Russia who still believe, are believing or can dream that they can terrify Ukraine, I want to disappoint you, this is not true. People were and still are in their workplaces and continue to do their jobs, Kirilo Budanov said in an interview Monday. He added, all those who try to intimidate us, dreaming that it will do something, will soon regret it. Our response will not be delayed. Everyone will see everything soon enough. Ukraine says it intercepted 77 of 89 Russian drones and missiles in the past day. Yuri Ihnat, a spokesman for the Ukrainian Air Force, said that Monday's missile attack appeared to be mainly with Iskander missiles, in ballistic or cruise mode. Ballistic missiles travel faster and are harder to intercept, although the Ukrainian military insists all 11 missiles fired towards Kyiv in a rare daylight attack were shot down. Ihnat also noted on Ukrainian television that it was possible that S-300 and S-400 missiles were used. The direction of attack was from the north, Ihnat said, without specifying whether the missile was fired by Russian units based in southern Belarus or in Russia. When asked if the newly received U.S. Patriot batteries were operational, Ihnat said, I think you can guess, if the Iskander-M missile was shot down, then one can conclude the type of vehicle could have been used to hit such fast-flying targets. Senior Lieutenant General Serhiy Popko, governor of the Kyiv capital region, said the daylight attack was the 16th attack on the capital since the beginning of the month. The enemy changed tactics. After protracted attacks, only at night, they attacked a peaceful city during the day, when most of the inhabitants were at work and outside. In other words, the Russians are clearly demonstrating that they are aiming to destroy civilians, he said. 10. Zelensky on Russian missile attacks. The world must see that terrorism is failing. Each terrorist attack brings Ukraine and the world back to an obvious conclusion. Russia wants to follow the path of evil to the end, that is, to failure, because evil does not and cannot have an end. Nothing but failure. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made the above stance in a speech to the Ukrainian people at the end of the 460th day of the war. Good health to you, compatriots of Ukraine. Today is a very long day, and it started very early for many of our people. Several Russian terrorist attacks happen in one day. Shahids, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, guide bomb. Thanks to our air defense, thanks to all the sky defenders, at least hundreds of lives have been saved today. In just one day. Most of the Shahids and rockets were shot down. But each such terrorist attack brings us and the whole world to a clear conclusion: Russia wants to follow the path of evil to the end, that is to failure, because evil cannot exist. An ending other than failure. The world must see that terrorism is losing. When Ukrainian patriots guarantee to shoot down 100% of any Russian missile, terrorism loses. As the world increases pressure on Russia, including sanctions, as the isolation of terrorists grows, as their former partners feel ashamed of any proximity to Moscow, terrorists are losing ground. And, of course, there is no greater humiliation to a terrorist nation than the success of our warriors. In fact, with our success, our pressure, our Patriot missile systems, we must and will continue to respond to every manifestation of Russian malice. And we will destroy this evil. No one else in the world wields weapons against evil more effectively than the Ukrainians. Today, I hold a meeting of the General Staff of Ukraine. The reports are very specific. Supply them with new air and missile defense systems, related agreements with partners. The effectiveness of our air defense and what can make our air defense stronger. Our defenses can learn and will do whatever it takes to make it much more difficult for terrorists. As usual, the General Command and the commanders of the operational directions reported to the General Staff. Not just providing ammunition, not just training new brigades, not just our tactics. But also time. This is the most important thing. When will we move forward? We will. Decisions have been made. I thank every soldier and sergeant, officer and general, and every brigade for getting ready. I also had a very rewarding meeting with our international staff today. We are preparing new joint steps with our partners to strengthen our defenses. And for our positive actions. There is no substitute for the complete emancipation of our land. There is no substitute for fully protecting our values. And I am grateful to all of our partners who understand that respect for human life, human freedom and international law are uncompromising values. Today I would like to thank Denmark, the whole nation, the whole Danish political class. Thanks to the National Assembly, the government and Prime Minister Frederiksen personally for deciding to increase the funding of the Danish Aid Fund for our country by more than $3 billion. Total defense assistance from Denmark will now amount to more than $4 billion 700 million. This is very meaningful. Such decisions make the defeat of Russian terrorism faster. Thanks for this. Today I spoke with Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen. I thank him for his principled support for international norms, for everything that states agree to under the Charter of the United Nations, and for conventions that are binding on all nations. People. I have invited Cambodia to join a joint effort with various countries around the world to realize our formula of peace. This is a shared global mission, to prevent Russia from making terrorism a normal thing for the world to infect others with this evil virus. And right before the recording of this speech, I had 2 more conversations. I spoke with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. I informed him about the terrorist attacks. I thank him for his willingness to continue helping us protect people. The Netherlands is one of the leading countries in helping to protect against terrorism and bring terrorists to justice. We discussed our defense cooperation, our new aviation alliance, a coalition of modern fighters that we are creating. And we will create it. Of course, we also discussed strengthening our air defense capabilities. I spoke with Turkish President Erdogan. I congratulate him on winning the election. I am confident that our further cooperation, Ukraine and Turkey, at all levels will bring further benefits to our people and international stability. The security of our region and Europe as a whole, global food security and upholding the fundamental rules of international law is what we have done, are doing and will continue to do together. Thanks to everyone in the world who helped. Glory to all our warriors. Thank you again to the Air Force and to all those who protect our skies. Pride for Ukraine.